Hey, Sarah, how you doing?
I'm good, Fatboy. How are you? Good morning.
Hey, good morning to you.
Yes.
Please tell us what's popping today.
Well, something very interesting caught my eye. Get this. Well,
What?
a white law student is suing Harvard University for $2 million after alleging that he faced racial discrimination.
$2 million. That's
$2 million.
a lot of money.
$2 million.
That's a lot of money.
That is a whole lot of money.
For discrimination, what kind of
Get
discrimination?
this. His name is Michael Newman, and he's a former student at Howard University's law school. And he's suing the historically black college after alleging he faced racial discrimination while he enrolled at the institution. Well, he enrolled at the school that was in 2020 up to September of 2022. And he's now seeking $2 million in monetary damage for what he calls the pain, suffering, emotional anguish, and damage to his reputation. In his lawsuit, he claims that he suffered depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts due to public ostracism, villainification,
Oh my gosh.
and humiliation.
Wait. But what exactly was done to him?
Let me go on. Let me finish. Well, it is also alleged that the global head of diversity, that is for recruitment at the university, said that he was the most hated student, and that is he's the most hated student that he ever saw during his tenure at the university. Well, the lawsuit states that things reportedly took a turn after discussions about Newman's purported racial insensitivity, I beg your pardon, and students had learned about a tweet he put on his Twitter where he shared a photo of a slave revealing his badly scarred back, and he put the caption. Can you guess what he said?
I can't.
He went on to say, I quote, "But we don't know what he did before the picture was taken." And
What?
of course,
Okay.
everybody was livid.
I mean, I know young people are prone to make insensitive jokes, and I know the college environment lends itself to that kind of mischief. But that was quite cruel.
Yes, it
Cruel
was.
thing to say.
And all the commenters that tried to explain to him why his caption on the picture was very insensitive, and also trying to explain things away, he went on to say that he reportedly mocked all the commenters who are attempting to explain away the video of police brutality by claiming the victim must have committed something wrong to deserve such punishment. So that's basically what he was saying, that the slave deserved it, basically.
Well, that was very unfortunate. And I know it's sort of feeding into the current divide that exists in America. There's a lot of racial tension with a lot of black people feeling as though, they're being unjustly targeted by police. Whereas the people on the other side might think that, or they might say that, there could be some mitigating circumstances that might explain the instances of force that may be used to apprehend a black suspect or whatever other thing. It is a nuanced conversation that requires cool heads to sit at a table and hash out their differences.
Yes.
But by being deliberately offensive like that, you kind of make that conversation difficult to have.
Exactly. Well, in the lawsuit, he also states that he apologized to anybody if they took offense. And he went on to say that his goal was to learn not to just study law, but also to learn the thoughts and experiences of people of color. Well, ultimately, there was a panel review that was held about the things that he said, and he was expelled. Now he's seeking $2 million. Do you know what? I think he was baiting them
Into expelling him?
into expelling him so that he can sue them.
Well, I don't know, because it's not a straightforward case, because and it's going to be quickly politicized. I think a lot of courts and juries in particular are quite sensitive, and it also depends on where the trial would take place if it ever got to a trial stage. But yeah, he could successfully argue that he was just freely expressing his opinion.
Exactly.
And, the school might have to pay.
Because, see, this is the thing. Howard University is a private, federally chartered, historically black research university in Washington, D.C. You cannot go to a predominantly black college, or rather university, and then start making such insensitive comments in the year 2020 and 2021.
I don't know if you mentioned.
Are you mad?
Did you tell us what race this person is?
He's white.
He's white. He's a
Yes,
white student.
He's a white student.
Wait, so he was a white student of Howard.
Yes.
They take in white students?
Yes, well, it's open to people of all sexes and races, and it offers undergraduate, graduate, and professional degrees in more than 120 programs. So everybody is welcome. And this university traces back in history from as far as 1867. But of course, back then it was predominantly black, but now they're a lot more inclusive and everybody's allowed to come in. So you walked into a black university and made such a...
I mean, it was obviously a trolling post.
I think it...
I think there are better ways of dealing with that rather than expulsion. So maybe even that wasn't the right thing for the university to do. Perhaps at best, they could have enrolled him into some sort of sensitivity classes.
I think so.
Have him sit in a class with black professors to teach him about the horrors of slavery or some crap like that, and then make him repent.
It's not crap.
Of his ways.
It's not crap.
No,
It's important for us to know
think
this
that
history.
people just have to move on from the
I
era of
don't
slavery.
think
It can't be a
so.
crutch that blacks, because here's my problem personally. It's not that the slave trade was bad or slavery was bad in America, but it is that societies all over the world have suffered slavery. Like, name the people, name the ethnicity, name the continent. Historically, everyone has been at some point under some form of subjugation or slavery. Under the Roman Empire, you had people of Germanic ethnicity, and then people in France, Anglo-Saxons, all of them, under the foot of Roman tyranny, and they were enslaved and raped and so on and so forth. What about under the Turkish Empire, which I dare say was perhaps the longest lasting colonial empire, spanning, lasting 600 years, under which much of Southern Europe was under their control and was Islamicized. So should all the Baltic states, why do you think you have like lots of Muslims in Serbia and places like that? Is because of the influence of the Turkish Empire. So my point is, if everyone were to start saying someone did me wrong, and so I will use that to define my identity for the rest of my existence, I feel like you're preventing yourself from moving forward, because everyone else has moved forward from their historical oppression. Why only blacks? Why should only blacks be rooted
it's
in
not
their
only
oppression?
blacks, it's also Jews. Why do you think they're quick to shut anybody up who makes those
Exactly.
comments?
Why blacks and Jews?
Even Muslims, why do you think they're quick to shut anybody up who tries to make
Thank you.
Islam, what is it called?
Islamophobia?
Yes, statements
So,
against
which is
their
why-
religion. No, this is what I want to say, Fat
Okay,
Boy.
go ahead.
You want to give us this whole history about slavery and the slave trade and all that stuff. Have you suffered under that kind of oppression?
Me personally,
You personally.
of course I've not been enslaved.
Okay. My next question. Have your people, do you know anybody in your family lineage who has suffered under that kind of oppression?
Possibly if you go back 200,
No, do
300
you know
years.
personally?
Personally, I don't.
Are you suffering any kind of oppression, stigmatization, discrimination because of your race?
Well, I live in a black majority country, so I get discriminated and
Exact-
oppressed for other reasons.
So
aside
my
from the
point-
color of my skin.
So my point is that you cannot relate to the struggles of black people in America.
Well,
You cannot.
I
All
think-
you can do is empathize, and all you can do is give a rational opinion towards their suffering. You are a bystander. You're standing on the outside looking in. Right now, a lot of black people in America are suffering under systematic racism, and I do not want to have to put you through a whole lecture. Go on and do your own reading.
Maybe I should
But
go
this
to
is the
Howard
thing.
University.
But you see, this is the thing. You cannot put yourself in a position or speak from a place where you have not suffered
But-
that kind of oppression and then say, you know what, get over it.
Here's the problem.
Your people did not suffer under it. You're not suffering
Here's
under
the-
it.
but you see,
and you're
that's-
speaking under
so
a place of privilege right now. So you can't do that.
From a strictly philosophical perspective, that's a bit fallacious. One need not have experienced the situation to be able to speak on it. I don't need to have contracted AIDS to know what to do to avoid getting AIDS or what medications may or
But
may
you
not
don't
work
know
for
the
AIDS.
experience of living with HIV.
I can be educated on it based on the experiences I've read from others. And let's go to those experiences as it pertains to race. And this is why I have a problem with all sort of victim advocacy ideologies. It's that you risk homogenizing every group of people as having only one view and one opinion. Would you be surprised to know that there are many black Americans who do not share the same liberal view of the blacks in America as it pertains historically, or even where they see themselves today vis-a-vis oppression, police brutality, and racism, and so forth. The loudest voices you are hearing are of leftists and liberals. Everything you've told me about the systematic oppression, all this. This is more a liberal left-wing perspective.
But
now,
isn't it not happening though?
I'm not saying.
Are you disputing that it's happening?
Just a minute. I'm not saying that just because of that it is therefore invalid. But I'm saying that there is also a different perspective by African Americans who just happen not to be liberal in their persuasion, and they would agree with the perspective I'm presenting. And
that
actually,
they should get over it.
Actually, yes, and actually, I am really picking.
Please point me in one direction.
Oh, I mean, the easiest example would be, say, someone like Candace Owens, who I know you don't completely dislike. You agree and disagree with her here and there.
Yes, I do.
So yeah, so at least you know she's not just some idiot out of thin air. There's Thomas Sowell. Basically, any black conservative you can pull out. It's just that the media presents you with a skewed, singular perspective, which doesn't capture the whole thing. So, for example, if you talk about oppression, feminists...
The ones who have the Uncle Ruckus mentality.
Well, that's an unfortunate label. Kind of like how women who are not feminists are also labeled all kinds of slurs by feminists, and so their views are discounted. Did you know, on the debate on abortion, for example, feminists will say it is a war on women, but even according to polls carried out in the U.S., at least 50% of women are not pro-abortion. And
let's skip to the topic of racism
my point
because
is,
I do not
my,
want
my
to have
point
to
is,
get into
I
this
understand.
conversation
so, my
of
point
abortion
is,
right now.
So if a feminist would say to me it is a war on women, and so if you're not a woman, you can't understand it, shut up. But then these same women are delegitimizing the opinions and voices of women who don't agree with them, who they don't speak for. Similarly, the black race advocates who would scream oppression and police brutality all day long, they don't necessarily speak for all blacks, and yet you are arguing as if they do.
What I'm saying, again, Fatboy, all you can do is empathize and try to rationalize somebody's thought, because you don't know what it's like to be in that person's feelings and that person's shoes. You don't know what it's like to have let me finish. You don't know what it's like to have gone through that situation. It's very easy for people who are not being oppressed to go on and say, you're being over dramatic, you're overreacting it, until you find yourself in that situation, and then you're like, oh, okay, I probably see where you're coming from. But this is what I'm going to say. And this is why I say that he probably baited them into getting them to react so that he can sue them. And I'm going to say two things. And I'm going to start on the issue of people who are on the outside looking in, the bystander who thinks that this is some kind of dramatization when people react to racism, especially people who are going through, people like you, people who are going, who think that people who are going through the consequences of racism are overreacting towards it. Okay, this is what I have to say. It's very important that we learn to educate ourselves so that we speak from a place of fact, not from a place of feeling. So that you know the statistics.
Mirror.
Listen, you know the statistics. You always speak from a place of feeling. You know the statistics, you know the facts, you know the history, first of all, and you know why people go on to, act in a way that they do. So it's about being empathetic. That is all that you can do. Be empathetic on it.
It has to go both ways, though.
And that is why,
if the courtesy isn't extended the other way, I see no reason to offer it to you.
I'm going to be talking about the people.
Where's your empathy from my perspective?
Hold on. Okay?
Go ahead.
So I think it's very important that you do that, because all you can ever speak from is from a place of empathy. And even when a conversation in that regard comes up, it's not you who they'll come for. The bystander, they will not ask you to chip in because you know nothing about it. All you can do is look at it and try to rationalize it. On the flip side, people who are victims of any kind of oppression, segregation, discrimination, etc. and whatnot, I think it's also very important for you to learn to educate yourself. I'm not going to say forget, because you just can't forget, because if you forget, then history is going to repeat itself. So educate yourself. Again, speak from a place of fact, speak from a place of, you know your law, you know your rights, so that the person who is oppressing you does not get a reaction out of you that is going to be detrimental to you in the long run. I don't know if I'm making sense here. So also learn psychology, sociology, and learn how to put your conversations or your points across by trying to help the other person understand. And if the other person does not understand where you're coming from, then perhaps they do not have the mileage to even have a conversation about it.
My
that
main,
is what I'm trying to say.
I hear you, but my main problem with your argument is it's premised on the idea that you are correct.
No, I'm not saying that I'm correct. You feel
So
like
in other
I'm
words,
correct.
my
so
my
now
po-
you're
my point
trying
is,
to get defensive.
okay, do you appreciate what I'm saying, that empathy must be extended both ways? If you want
And
one
that is what I
side,
just said.
if you want one side to listen and educate themselves about your situation, you have to also listen and educate yourself about the other person's position, understand the other person's feeling. You see, you can't just say because someone is a victim, therefore shut up and listen.
That's not what I said.
It's okay to sit down and say, but let's examine the question. Are you really a victim? Why do you feel as though you're a victim? And is it a valid conclusion? I feel like the conversation should start there. And then you can either prove to me that you are, or I can prove to you that you are not. But that back and forth has to take place on a neutral assumption, on an assumption of neutrality where we're just meeting to expand our ideas about the world rather than just assuming one conclusion and arguing backwards from it.
And that's exactly what I said, and you're not listening. That's why I'm saying people on both sides of the spectrum of the coin need to empower themselves, need to educate themselves and speak from a place of fact, have statistics, and also from a psychological standpoint so that you are able to clearly, it's not even about argue or debate, but put your point forth, or tell your experience forth, as opposed to just saying, you know what, get over it. I don't think you should ever, nobody has the right to ever tell somebody how or when to heal from the atrocities that they have suffered. You can't do that.
But that's, you're being overly dramatic. What about the people who, to this day, so let's look at our own country, colonialism, all right? It's sort of, in some ways, it's comparable. It's the same argument about a foreigner coming in and oppressing the people here and so forth. And that the problems we are facing today is as a result of colonialism. And I would make the same argument to anyone who would say that. I would say, look, everyone else in the past was occupied and colonized. They got over it and they moved on and they built. Yes, have you not heard of the Empire of Greece, the Roman Empire, the Babylonian Empire?
For places you don't come from, fat boy. That is what exactly I'm saying. I think right now you should be giving an example of oppression that you have faced, so that you can say, I personally moved on from it.
That's
But
my
you cannot
problem.
speak
I don't
for Greek
I don't
people.
define my life through oppression. Whereas
you do not speak for them, the oppressed. Then
exactly. So therefore, and this is the foundational problem: is that you assume, as long as someone claims a wrong was done to them, that their position is the default one. And I'm saying that can't be true. It has to be argued. It is no less valid than mine, where I can look at a situation and then say, no, I don't think that's what happened. Just because you feel you were victimized, it doesn't mean I sit down and listen and, okay, you were so right. Everything you're saying is correct. I should validate your feelings. No.
Exactly, fat boy. Just as you're saying you should not validate everybody's feelings, it's also not your right to tell people when and how to get over things that they have experienced that you know nothing about. That is what I'm trying to say.
I have a right to
you cannot tell somebody just get over it.
Actually, no. Here's the thing.
You can't do that.
I have a right to tell you whatever I want to tell you, and you have a right to react to it whichever way you want. I mean, that's what conversation means. You need to think about how this might stifle conversation as applied to all kinds of areas. And that's the whole idea of debate, is you have to universalize these principles.
I am not denying that conversation is important, but it is not your place. Not even therapists tell their clients, get over it or move on from it. No, they don't do that.
Sometimes you do have to tell someone to get over a situation.
And these are trained professionals, because they understand everybody has their own healing and has their own time.
Psychiatry is a bit of a joke, to be honest.
Let me finish, that they will allow their client or patient to move on at a time whenever is right for them. Just at the same time when people are sick. You don't go into a doctor's office and the doctor is like, you tell a doctor, oh, I have a headache, and it's like, oh, get over it. The doctor could give you a painkiller and you're better in 2 days. Other days,
So-
you will wake. Next thing you know is you have a brain tumor.
So
So
what would you
everybody
say
has
to
a
me?
promise. A process. So what I'm trying to say is, it's okay. Have a conversation, but don't tell somebody, get over it.
Why not?
When you don't know anything
does-
about that
it-
situation.
how do you know that?
You don't.
How
And
do
the
you
issue
know
of racism, you just admitted you
How
have
do you
never
know that?
experienced it. Your people haven't. You don't know anybody that has, but you have your own problems. And those own problems that you have, you wouldn't appreciate it if somebody told you, because nobody has a right to tell you, no, fat boy, get over it.
So in other words,
No, don't do that.
so-
But listen and have a conversation, but don't tell somebody to let go of it at your own convenience.
So to the
it's
black,
not your experience.
So to the black Americans who also are descended from slaves, who do not share the same victim mindset as their contemporaries that do their opinions matter? Because for them, you cannot say that they've not historically experienced it.
I did not say that, Fat
So
Boy.
their views count, yes?
I did not say
So you're
that.
saying Candace
what
Owens,
I have said.
if Candace Owens says, I don't see
Fat
myself as
Boy,
a victim,
Fat Boy, again,
you can't say
Fat
anything
Boy,
about it
Fat
because
Boy.
you are not American.
I am definitely not. And that is why I am saying, even having this conversation to say that Black America should get over racism is absolutely not right. I do not have any authority on that. I have been born and raised in Uganda, in Africa. I have never experienced any type of racism. I have never experienced any type of systematic racism. So anything that I will say will probably be just be taken with a grain of salt and not even probably be valid to their conversation, because I don't know what it's like. So I have no right.
You do.
No right to say,
do.
black people,
Don't limit you.
get
Don't
over
hold
it.
yourself back.
When they are still going through things such as police brutality, and black people are the biggest victims of this, when they're going through
Is that true though?
yes, it is. And going through all these things that black people go
that
through.
That's my point.
Listen,
That's my
and
point.
they're
Is
going
that
through all
I
these
used
things.
to think like
I
you.
don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like to be black in America and be scared.
Well, the thing
You
is, so
understand?
I spent most of
I don't.
Listen to me. I spent most of my life listening to the victim song of the people that are informing your opinion on this subject, and then I began to question things more, and I started to hear voices of the same black Americans who simply don't have the same view as those who cry victim all day long. And you know what? I came to find that their opinion actually makes more sense than the ones who are grifting on the victim card. And for the most part, it is a grift, because look at Black Lives Matter. Didn't they buy mansions with the tens of millions of dollars they were raising for police brutality?
Two things.
It's
I
a
want to say
scam.
this. Two things. I want to say this. You are probably leaning towards the black people in America that are not suffering or don't see any oppression or racism, because you can relate, because you have never faced anything like that. And number two, just like Black Lives Matter and any other organization or campaign in the world, from Islam to Christianity to feminism to women emancipation to the boy child re-education and whatever that case may be, there are always a group of people who are going to take advantage to LGBTQ plus. There are always going to be a group of people who are going to be extremists and try to take advantage of the loopholes to benefit themselves. That does not mean that none of these campaigns are actually have helped some people and actually have made a point and done what they were supposed to do.
I guess we shall agree to disagree.
Yeah, and I have been saying from the get-go, it
We'll
is
agree to
okay
disagree.
from people from both sides of the spectrum to sit and have a conversation so that you can figure out a way that you can move forward, because it really doesn't help a genuinely oppressed group to be divided amongst themselves. You have to find
That's
a
the
way
thing.
that you
You
both
do
can
not-
walk forward.
let me tell you something.
But as the bystanders,
The victim grifters don't speak for all blacks.
all we can do, but us bystanders, from people looking outside, People who are on the outside who don't have any first-hand experience to even deal in that situation, because you, fat boy, you don't know that if you relocated to the United States that you would be amongst those black people that are not facing racism. Don't know that.
Why do you keep forgetting that throughout this conversation I am citing the black Americans who do not see themselves that way?
Exactly.
So you can't invalidate them on the basis of them not having experience.
Again, you're not listening. I'm not invalidating them. I'm saying both of them should come, both groups should come together and have that conversation.
So you're not entitled to have an opinion on it.
But us on the outside having to tell them
your position
what
should
to
be
do
neutral
and how to get over it. For me, that is a comment that I
you
do
can't
not stand
have it.
with.
You can't have it.
You cannot tell someone
you can't have it
to
both
just
ways.
get over it.
I feel like you can't have it both ways, because you are kind of attempting to proselytize on the virtues of listening to the victims. Clearly, you take their side, and that is fine, to the victim ideologists.
That is not
you
what
do,
I've
it's
been
quite
saying.
obvious you take their view.
No.
But my
Don't
point
choose
is,
for me. Again, at the beginning of my argument, I spoke to both sides. Did I not do that?
No, you kept saying, listen to them.
No.
You have no rights.
I said, and I even began with the side of the oppressors. And I said, oppressors, I said that they should go on to educate themselves, empower them.
Are they
and
oppressors?
I also spoke to the victims, and I say to themselves, educate yourself, empower yourself, so that you can both come together and have a conversation.
If you're calling them oppressors, you've already presumed the answer.
Fat boy, again, you are not listening, and I don't know why you are not.
I am listening.
You are really not. No, you are not listening clearly. Because in the beginning, I said and I spoke to all marginalized groups. I said to people who are felt marginalized, discriminated against, and I spoke to both sides. What I said
Don't say
is
people who are. Say people who feel that they are.
People who are on the both sides of the spectrum. Again, people who are on different sides of the spectrum should have the conversation. What I am saying is that for you who has not experienced that situation, should not be in a position to tell somebody when and how to get over it. That is all I'm saying.
Okay.
And that's where I rest my case.
Okay. Now, I'm quite happy to have my friends come to me if they find me moping over a girl that broke my heart 10 years ago.
But you do.
They should tell me to snap out of it and get over it.
But you still mope over girls who broke your heart 10 years ago, fat boy.
And don't you think, if that's true, shouldn't I get over it?
I am not going to tell you what you... No, listen. I'm not going to tell you...
Because you know that's the sensible thing to do.
No, this is the
You're
thing.
setting yourself an
Fat
impossible
boy,
standard.
Again, I am just like...
It just doesn't work.
Just like with therapists, your therapist will see you for as long as you need to see them, and they're never going to tell you to get over it.
Keep shelling out money for them to waste your time. And this is why Andrew Tate is so popular.
Therapy
because
works.
He speaks to men like men. He just tells you, look, you're broke, you're depressed, you're fat. Get to the gym, make money, stop crying, be a man. And it's resonating so powerfully because we're tired of being coddled and told, oh, don't worry, are you feeling sad? It's okay, keep crying all day long. Don't let anyone tell you to stop crying. Healing takes an eternity.
And you know what's crazy, fat boy? That is why the suicidal rates or suicide rates are higher in men.
Exactly. And people like
you
Andrew
guys
Tate,
go on to mask.
People like Andrew Tate and other spokesmen for men and other advocates for men.
You just go on to rap over your pain, and then the next thing you know, oh, he was a happy guy, and next thing you know, he's hanging on his balcony.
And that's the problem.
That is not helping anybody, is it?
And that is why, to men, we don't want them sitting on a couch and moping all day, because they are gonna get suicidal if they keep dwelling on what's making them sad. Instead, they're supposed to dwell on what's gonna make them strong, what's gonna make them successful, what's gonna make them rich.
If that is the case, then we wouldn't be having rich celebrities committing suicide now, would we?
How many of them do?
We have.
There are a lot more broke people that kill themselves.
I don't even want to mention their names, but you do
a
know
lot more broke
of
people kill themselves.
I don't want to mention their names and bring them into this conversation, but we know them. We know them. They took their lives and they had everything. We thought they had everything. We thought they were happy.
And there are plenty of rich people who are happy and not killing themselves.
But there are probably on drugs, on alcohol, and have some other detrimental coping skills.
That's why the solution isn't to mope about. That's the point.
I think the solution is to have a conversation about it, and that is what I have been saying the whole time.
Robin Williams was in therapy the entire time.
Talk about it.
Robin Williams killed himself. and he was in therapy. What do you have to say about that?
He probably was not getting the help he needed.
Do you see what I'm saying?
He probably did not get the help that he needed.
It's anyway. Here's
And
what I'm
probably
glad about.
something else pushed him to it.
Here's what I'm glad about.
But let's not dispute the facts that a lot of men are committing suicide because society keeps on telling them, be a man,
No,
do not complain,
Society-
do not talk about it. And then the next thing you know is that they're, taking themselves.
No,
taking
the
themselves
reason-
away from this world.
The reason why men are taking themselves is, and you're not a man, so you can't comment on that. Can I use that argument on you now?
But I'm
Can
speaking
I
from a
use-
place. I'm speaking from a place of statistics. You know
No,
what?
but you have
Let
never
me- no,
experienced
let me
it.
do-
You didn't care for my
I said,
statistics
fat
because I
boy,
wasn't a black American.
You did not use any statistics. And again, I'm saying, fat boy, you are not listening. When I was speaking to people from different sides of the spectrum, I said, empower yourself, educate yourself, use statistics and use knowledge to have your to put your points forth. Do not speak from a place of rationality. Don't do that.
I can't help it.
Don't
I'm
speak
a
from a
man.
place
I'm
of
logical
rationality.
and rational. That's
Bambi.
what we do.
From irrationality, I beg your pardon. That's what I meant to say. Don't speak from a place of irrationality and because you feel a certain type of way. And stop being condescending. But anyway, I want to run some quick facts for you as you were saying what you were saying.
Okay, please. Let's
What
see.
were you going to say before what I was saying?
Oh no, I'll just repeat my point. I think
Mm-hmm.
the main cause for men wanting to commit suicide, like if it is an actual like extreme mental illness, it'll be a lack of purpose. It'll be the men who maybe have been through a rough divorce, have lost their money, lost their savings, lost their children. A lot of divorced men do kill themselves. People who lose their jobs they kill themselves. Lack of purpose is one of the most potent factors in one choosing to commit suicide. And of course, maybe some acute emotional distress, like from a heartbreak or things like that. And in all cases, the solution is for you to snap out of it and get your life together and to quit moping around. Because the more you mope around and mope about, you are just going to find yourself digging much deeper and deeper grave than the one you found yourself in. And before you know it, you're going to be contemplating taking your life. And if you add alcohol on top of that and drugs, which usually comes bundled together with those dark feelings, suicide is inevitable. And you can avoid that. And so you need to motivate men in a positive way, not to coddle them and treat them like they're kids. I'm sorry. For me, that message doesn't resonate. And I'm speaking as a man who has been through therapy, by the way. Speaking as a man who has been through therapy. I went for a couple of sessions and I said, you know what? I'm wasting my time here. And guess what I did? I just worked on getting my act together. And those depressing feelings, I won't say they vanished, but they're now like so minuscule to the point that I even have to think and remember that I was ever in such a place. I mean, that's the power of positivity. How's that a bad message?
So you are admitting that therapy did help you.
It didn't. I said it was a waste of my time. I went for a couple of sessions where the counselor was asking me random questions about why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. And they were asking me about the circumstances. And I kept feeling worse because I had to sort of relive the whole thing. You know what I mean? And it was a waste of time. So I just woke up one day and said, I have stuff to do. I have a life to live. And that's what I did.
And good on you for snapping out of that. But I
Yeah.
don't even know how we came here. But I just want to give you some statistics. Suicide is a leading cause of death for men under the age of 50. And suicide in Canada is the second leading cause of death for men under the age of 50. In the UK, suicide is the single largest cause of death for men under the age of 50. And in the USA, suicide is the second most common cause of death for men under the age of 45. It also goes on to say that according to a meta-analysis looking at 20 studies across Northern America and Western Europe, 19.7% of men, that is fewer than 1 in 5, had contact with mental health professionals in the year leading to their suicide. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. I want to get some statistics in Africa so that we can solve this issue. And at the end of the day, I certainly do believe talking it out or seeking knowledge as to why you feel a certain type of way or why certain issues are burdening you is very, very absolutely important. So
Maybe we can take a music break and then come back to this if you like. It's an
There's a
interesting.
lot. You know what? Let's just end it here because I might go on and on and on and on and turn this into a lecture. So today
You don't say.
your assignment, you went on a whole monologue about your whole past life history. But anyway, just let us be more empathetic today, and please, knowledge is power. They didn't lie when they said that. Knowledge is a power, and empower yourself. And please don't speak from a place of irrationality. And I mean, you cannot. There's that. I think it's a Bible verse that says, "Don't lean on your own understanding," because you don't. Okay.
Does this work the other
I'm
way around too?
done.
I would
Don't
hope
lean
so.
on your own understanding.
I would
because
hope it
you
works
don't.
the other way around as well.
What do you mean by that?
I mean by that you're very good at preaching a message of empathy and of looking at things a certain way, although I do find that it is seldom applied to yourself, where
I don't think you have been paying attention this whole time I was speaking. But let's go back into a music break. It's RX Radio.
Yep, it's the Fatboy Show, and Sarah will be back with more details on what else is popping.